again shell. There was a shell and it was born again, and we called it bash. It's not bashing your head against the wall. And you can see it with the environmental variable shell. Context, you may be wondering, what is a shell? I took this screenshot on an old video. It's the thing that lets you talk to the kernel, which is the computer, kind of, but not really. Yeah? And then you use the userland utilities, which are just programs, to talk to that. So the shell lets you talk to the utilities, which lets you talk to the kernel. Any concerns? Awesome. There used to be an image here. There it is. So the command I typed here, where I did echo shell, I can put that in a file, and then I can run the file with bash. And then it's as if I typed what I typed in the file. So you imagine if you type a lot of things, and you don't want to type them all every time, you put them in a file, and then you can run it. And that's a bash script. It's so crazy. So if you haven't used bash before or a shell, then this may be a bit of a jump, but hopefully you have. So, here's some boring stuff. So SH was in like 1979 or something. I don't know. I wasn't alive. But it was recreated in 1985 by some guy named Almquist, who may or may not be alive still. And then bash came along in 1988. And bash is the one we're going to be using. It's the most featureful. It has like a good blend of being like everywhere and being featureful. And then there's dash, which is the modern SH. It's a lot smaller, which is why it's the default for SH. You can see that sibling. Yeah, awesome. There's also some others, like if you use BSD, you're going to see C shell or K shell, corn with K. Don't ask me. But they're all basically the same. All the same ideas transferred. You may have heard of POSIX, and I'm not going to talk about it too long because it's also boring. But it's a thing that a bunch of people wrote, and then it's like, if you run an operating system, you can do it like this. And then other operating systems will be able to talk to you. So like Unix systems, the original Unix systems, and Linux both try to be POSIX compliant. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is in an effort to make your scripts portable. Like let's say I write something for Linux, I want to transfer it to BSD, it may or may not work. If everything was strictly POSIX compliant, then it would work totally. But life isn't so amazing. So when we write things, shells, scripts, we have this thing at the top. It's called a shebang because it's like the sharp symbol and then the bang. You know when you say password one bang, and bang is an exclamation mark? And then like you say C sharp, the hashtag's a sharp bang, shebang. And what it does is it tells you how you want to run the rest of the file. So if I wanted to run this file with bash, I'd put in bash at the top. If it was a Python file, I could do it Python. And what that helps us with is when you just want to // run a file, if you don't want to say like Python 3 script, I can just do // script, and it will read the shebang to see what I want to execute with. All right, enough of boring stuff. Come SSH with me. And bash with bash one bang. So you can SSH from Windows. If any of you guys are like, I can't do it, I'm on Windows, you can open it. Just open CMD and then type that, and it'll still work. So bad. You can see we have some people. So if I want to see new people logging in, I can just type W, and this can be my full-time job. Or, as you may be thinking, what if we put it in a script? All right, is anyone stuck on this? And not this again. This is command substitution. All right, so I have some scripts here which you shouldn't be able to delete. If you can delete them, please don't. And yeah, is anyone having trouble getting to the server that wants Austin to go help them and or Galen? Awesome. So here's our first script. It's script 0 because whatever. And I have it right here if you don't want to write it, but you can also write it. Your home directory is writable, and you can go in Playground if you want to write things that you don't want to like pollute the home folder. So here's what it does. We go line by line. It says while true, so forever, do W, which we saw, prints the list of users. Wow, there's a lot of people. And then it sleeps for 1 second, clears the terminal, and then does it again. So there's 2 ways you can do it. If you want to do it like multiple lines, you can. Or if you want to do it on 1 line, you can. Just put semicolons where the new lines would be. Crazy. So if I do bash script 0, it waits 1 second, clears the screen, and then runs it again. And I've automated myself out of a job. And I can see which one of you are running it because it says sleep 1. So it's pretty neat for me. I think it's neat. So this is useful, but people can log into your server without triggering this. This is only for people who have issued PTYs, which are pseudo terminals, and you can log in through your SSH without doing that. So it's not like a security, it's not foolproof. But it shows a lot of cool things Bash can do. So it does loops, we do sleeping, that's cool, and running system utilities. So W is just a program on the system. Like every program you've ever written, I could call that if it was on my path, which I won't talk about. All right, so now I'm gonna talk more about just Bash things. So you can, if you want to follow along and just write stuff in your shell, you can totally do that. Or I'm just gonna go really fast. So 3 things, 3 major control structures. The while loops, so it's the while loop. An if statement, these can get kind of confusing, and I'll talk more about conditionals later, but it's just if. You can also do else's, you can also do elifs. Those are all valid. And there's an example for while, there's an example for if. And then function names are a lot easier. You don't need to declare like parameters and see if that's what you did in 150 or 250. You just say the name, parentheses, and then the curly brackets, and then you put stuff in it. You can still pass parameters, but you call them in a different way, which we'll talk about later. Any concerns on whiles, ifs, or et ceteras? All right. Since you didn't have any questions, you better know what's wrong with this.
Does it have an FI at the end?
Absolutely correct. So when you do an if, you need to do an FI, not a done. So that is correct. That's great. So if you reference a variable, it needs to start with a $sign in Bash. In C, you have to declare the type. There are no such types. Everything is just a string or a number. It gets marshaled into whatever you need it to be, pretty much. So for example, if I wanted to declare adjective being epic, then I can use it right here. Obviously, that's a canned example that's not very useful. But we can make the adjective, in this case, something else. Like maybe it was user input, and you can describe Bash with fewer characters. So we saw $sign shell at the start, and it's all caps. That's an environmental variable. That's purely by convention. So if you see something in all caps, it's probably an environmental variable, which is something run in your environment. Awesome. All right, another one. There's gonna be one of these after every slide, so get used to it. This one's a little trickier.
The $sign for the first mantra.
Correct. Nice job, kid. So yeah, when you assign a variable, the first time you don't put a $sign. When you reference it, you do put a $sign. So this is what arrow. Another one. This is more of an unintended use case or an unintended. It's like a foot gun.
Is it because you spelled the thing wrong? Like it's like favorite lettery phone.
Yeah, close. So I was trying to say xylophone, but since I was trying to put it right after it, it didn't know where the variable ended or where la phone started. So in order to do that, I'd have to put brackets around it. So like, if my variable was cool, it was X, and I wanted to like echo xylophone, I'd have to put it in brackets so it knows where the variable actually ends. Did I spell right? No. Doesn't matter, no. Cool. So command substitution is probably the most useful thing. You saw me already use it when I nuked walls, so people wouldn't be annoying with it. It lets you take the output of a command and then put it into another command. So right here, I can use, if I want to see which shell I'm using and see like if it's suid, which is common in like competitions, then I can do that. And that's saying take the output of which sh, which prints the path of sh, and then ls log. So I'll use backtick just because it's faster, but the other one is more modern syntax technically. And you can see that I list all the properties. It's not suid, so we're safe for now. This one kills your own shell, so this is kind of similar to subshells, where you put things in parentheses, and then you can do all kinds of magic things with the input-output. We don't care about that.
parentheses around users
Okay. So this was just, well,
or the second users.
no, that should work. The bug I intended was this should be backticks. It's just double quotes. So, or a dollar sign parentheses. But that's, if you want to include white space, like if your variable has white space in it and you want to like preserve it, you should put quotes around it. Double quotes. So I said I was going to talk about arguments, and I delivered. So arguments, like in C, you can reference them with 0, 1, 2. You know, in C you have to do like argv indexing. None of that. Just dollar signs. So I have a file right here called args. Someone made LOL. I'm not going to read it. And it says bash is $1. So this is going to take the first argument to your script and then just print it. So yeah. So you can use it, you can run it, you can describe bash in fewer characters than you ever have. And if you want to reference all arguments, which you don't really need to, because that's only fancy things, you can do it with $at. Yeah, you don't have to raise your hand. What's up?
There's a space between $and 1.
Absolutely correct. So that will not work. You need no space. More conditionals. So the funky thing about this is like you have a bunch of commands. How do you let the commands tell the conditional that it worked or didn't work? Because in C, you know, you can have true or falses, booleans, and in C, 0 means false and 1 means true. But in bash, 0 means good and 1 means false. So it's not confusing. For example, if I cat etsy password and then I grep root, root is an etsy password because if you'll recall, that's just a list of users. Huzzah, and root is at the very top where it belongs. So if I read it, it worked, so it does exist. And then I can do the status code with that, and it says 0. But if I grep for something that doesn't exist, then grep will tell me that it failed by returning a 1 status code, which means bad. Yeah. Concerns? What's up?
What is the question mark that you were using? Just like immediately before you asked for questions?
This thing?
Yeah, echo $$ question mark.
Good question. So that's a built-in variable that references the status code of the previous command. So normally only bash knows, but you can reference it like that, and it'll print. So in this case, this failed, so return to 1 status code. So this is the status code for that.
You only have a singular quote at the very beginning.
Yeah, well that's a backtick, but you answered it correctly pretty much. So I'm doing command substitution here, but that's not going to work because if also calls it. So I'm going to end up calling the first line of etsy password. So it's just bad. Don't put command substitution in an if statement. That was kind of weird, but you see the line. More comparisons. Whew, how long is this? So the test command is actually literally a bracket. Someone that may or may not be in this room once thought it was a virus and deleted it, but it's literally a command. It's just a bracket, and it does test operations. So if I do this, I'm literally calling the bracket command like twice, or something. I don't know. It might be built-in. So I can just compare things. So you don't need to call another command. I guess you are. It does compare things. Whatever. So I do hi equals hi. It worked. Woo! But you notice that if the highs are not the same, nothing. Glorious conditionals. Another thing you'll need if you're going to do the challenge at the end is this, empty. You can also do tests on variables. So if a variable is empty, I'll just use a variable that doesn't exist because that's definitely empty. Make sure you have your spacing right. Then to say, it is in fact empty, thus execute the body of the if. Concerns? What just happened? Okay.
Yeah. You need double quotes around the tomatoes?
You would think, but I tried to break this, and this actually still works. So, yeah.
So, tricky.
You don't have a semicolon after the condition.
That's correct. So you need a semicolon there. That's actually a trick. Nothing to do with conditionals. I'm great. So, another one. This is the second to last one. You can print things with echo, which you've seen me do, but did you know you can also print colors? And it's the most ugly thing ever. You see these like escape codes, 36 is like red or something, I don't know. Anyway, you can do escape codes with echo if you do E, which is useful for like tabs and new lines, because if you're doing bash scripting and you want it to look nice, you'll probably do a lot of white space management, which you can do with -E for escape. Otherwise, it'll just print like the literal \n like you see here. And the bug.
You're using single quotes, so the "it's" is going to cause problems.
Jackson got it, yeah. So if you use a single quote, you can't use single quotes in the real thing, because it's going to print like it. And then it's like S is not a command. So, good one. All right, so here are some things. After this, I'm going to go into some example scripts, and here are the things that you should be familiar with. What's up, Michael?
If you wanted to have an apostrophe, how would you do that?
So you could either use double quotes around it, or you could escape the single quote. Yeah, I'll do it quick. I never actually tested this, so I might be stupid. Yeah, so it's waiting for another quote. So that works, or you can do. Oh no, you can't. Okay, use double quotes. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, so useful utilities that you want to be familiar with. You probably are familiar with cat, w, and grep because I've used those. Another thing, like in process management land, you want to be familiar with ps, pgrep, and lsoft. We're not going to use lsoft, but it's a cool command. And ps is super useful. It'll list a bunch of things, processes. Pgrep will let you search for processes. So if you want to see how many processes a certain user are running, how many processes have a certain text in it, like Python. How many Pythons? I don't know. Socket statistics will give you network stuff, and we can use that for like listening connections. And then this stuff, since everything is in plain text, you need utilities to be able to manipulate plain text. So let's say I wanted this to be like, this should be new lines. Like on new lines, I could translate every space to be a new line. And cut, we're not going to use that, so it's whatever. Word count is useful because it can let you see how many lines something has. So if I want to see how many users I have, I can do something like this. I typed S twice. I have 48 users. Who knew? All right. Our first example script is the exact same, except it prints listening ports. Concerns? Now hopefully the wows make sense. If it didn't before. Number 2. So this one is I highlighted it to make it better, but it might have just made it worse. So echo, classic. And then this is an array. You didn't think you could do bash arrays? You're wrong. And the way you delimit them is just with a space. So this is an array with 2 elements. It's handy because a lot of things print out with spaces, so you can just take something and then make it an array. This is saying for service in all the services. Don't mind the weird that. That's just how you do for each element of an array. And then run, is it active? If so, like, and, like a Boolean and, this, or down. So that's like it's like a ternary statement. Cool. And you can use multi-line commands if you want it to look nice with \. Let's see if it works. I locked it. Again, what's the password?
Default?
Classic. Jeez, I'm still in your walls. Who got rude? Was you, Jake? Okay.
Someone
So
has
the servers are up. Amazing. So if you want an alert that your servers are down during CCDC or something, you can do that. This one's useful, but it won't work because you're not root. So give up. But it works like read, so it'll read in a variable, and then it'll change the user password to the password. This one's weird because it uses command substitution inside a for loop. So this will return an array, a new line delimited array, of every user that has a shell. So it's saying for every user that has a shell, change their password. What's your password? So it's just going to error out on me, but I can still run it. And it'll error out because we're not root. So we could watch it painfully error out for all 3 users, and in fact we did. But if we were root, it would do it successfully, and then print out these, which we could copy into the scoring engine to change our passwords. Concerns? This is like the #1 script that people are always like, how do I change password? This is it. IP tables, oh my god. So I'm not gonna write this, and it's not gonna work because I'm not root. But this is how you may configure your firewall. If you didn't want to use UFW, if you wanted more control over it, this is how you may do it. So first I assign it in a variable so I don't have to type as much. And then you declare the things you want in. So let's say I want an SSH in, then I say anything that already existed is okay. And then I'm allowing internet and DNS out, and then blocking everything else. This isn't a firewall thing, but it's useful. This one's probably my favorite. So this will spawn a shell that looks like a real shell, but it will just log every command that they write to varlog commands. So if you set this as a shell for users that shouldn't be logged into, then they can't escape it with Control-C, they can't escape it with Control-D, they can't background it. They're going to have to close their terminal. So I don't want to do that, so I'm going to open a new terminal. And yeah, if you ran it, then sorry. So I run script 5, and it looks like I got root. Look at that. Pervisk. But then you see that no commands are actually found, even when you spell them right. And I Control-C, I can't Control-C. I can't Control-D. I can't background it. And all the commands that we wrote, don't mind me. I typed that out. All the commands that I just wrote, or anyone wrote, will be in varlog commands. So I hope you didn't write anything bad. It was just me. Oof. And here's an example of what you don't want to do. So a while ago, Bash was the only language I knew, so I wrote a thing that would monitor SSH and let you snoop on it. But don't do that. If you do anything like moderately complex, just use a real language. Something that you may be concerned with for CCDC is if you just put your firewall script and your password script like in your root directory, they're going to see it. They're probably going to, like, best case, the red team removes it. Worst case, they modify it, and then you use it again, which is bad. So here are some things that may work. If you put your scripts in like libdbus, no one knows what dbus is. It doesn't exist. And if you name it something like systemd, resolved, no one will touch it. Because they can still see it in PS, but if it looks legit, then it's fine. Especially if you're running as root. Another thing is that whenever you change a file, it changes the modification time. So if the red team scans your entire system for something that was changed in the last 10 minutes, they'll find it. So you can time stop it like that, if you can do that. It's the last 3 things. If you sit in that directory, then they'll see that, oh, he's sitting in libdbus s script like scripts firewall. Suspicious. And here's a script you can do it using command substitution. Yeah, did it. If you're running it like forever in a loop, you want to disown it. That means it won't run under bash, because if they see like bash and then firewall.sh, that's suspicious. But if they just see like firewall.sh by itself, that doesn't make sense if you don't know what I'm talking about.
That's still kind of suspicious.
It's still suspicious, so name it something else. It doesn't need to end in .sh. But if I have like, what is wow? This better not be bad. Thanks. If I have a script that runs forever like this, and it's super useful, and actually that's going to be so annoying, then I can run it, and then background it. I can run it and then background it with this, with the ampersand, and then disown it. And I just ran my terminal. How did I do that? Jake, you have root. Can you kill it?
I'm not root.
It's bad. Alright, so then you log in again. if we check ps-oxf, which shows like a tree-like format, then we can see that this guy is running bash from his thing. But we should just see like script somewhere. Am I blind? Look, that's how good it is at hiding. So we don't see it. It's not attached to some kind of script, which makes it harder to find.
Can't you just like FG Control C or is it?
No, I disowned it, Austin. That means it is no longer attached to my. And last thing, don't include in your script history. If you put a space before your commands, it won't be written to your history. Or if you just
On some distros.
on some distros, or you can just symlink to dev null because who needs command history? All right, here's a challenge. Write a script to for a user pass from the command. You can read it. Write that, and then if you do it, I'll give you some M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms. So if you don't like those, then don't try. And I'll just watch you while you do it.
With peanut M&Ms.
You like peanut M&Ms? Do you like hands?
No, I'm good.
Why did you bring a pen? Is a real question.
Do you like shirts from people that didn't come to collect them?
Peanuts.
You say you don't like peanuts? Who doesn't like peanuts?
I like peanuts. I
Egg.
don't like M&Ms.
Also, for attendance, the Cybernet, I don't know if you know, it just doesn't work.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't work. Look,
I'll demo it right now.
let me hit join.
Yeah.
It just says, you're not valid.
Maybe you should be valid.
I'm pretty valid.
Give me your credentials.
What?
No.
I don't think that's how that one works, Sir Chief.
Alright, well, if you see if it works for me, well, my
I
pattern
just
doesn't
haven't
work.
been able to get it.
And then I click join. I already joined, so it's gonna tell me I was already signed up.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It doesn't work on me.
Doesn't work really?
It
There's
says
only two to-
something about your IA lab just doesn't work. It's like got my valid IA username stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's
Galen's
annoying.
API.
It's like adios.
You make a fair point. Galen, is your API running?
This one.
Galen's API is never running, let's be
I
honest.
restarted the box, so no.
It's Galen. It's always Galen.
Why do you have it fail closed on that?
Because what? Because
Just an if statement.
yeah, that's a good point. I'll change it.
If they're signing up for attendance, it shouldn't fail close.
It validates that their iLab username is correct, so people can't just put bogus.
But like,
It ends it.
unless we're deploying a lab to them, do we care?
You don't write
I care a little bit, because that's what's used for attendance. Like when you.
Well, we can
when you export.
retroactively go through and delete everyone that's bad.
I don't understand.
Not a good
Word.
approach.
I didn't start it up.
You did good. Oh,
I think
actually,
so. I'm sure.
that sucks. Attendance doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, I was just telling you that if
Do
we
you
ever
have
do
the-
a
You
lab,
wish you were bad.
Do you have
I guess I could
password?
just-
What?
Do you have VPN access and key passwords on
No,
this?
we'll do it later. It's fine. Has anyone solved it yet?
Austin? Have you solved it yet? 7,000 transcripts?
Wait, this is the wrong one. There you go.
No, it wants user info. How many? What command is?
When do I see typing?
Yeah, you know.
Why is it working? Just gonna do like.
Just making sure.
Takes up the scripts like prematurely to start. There you want to go return. There it is. So like you know in Siege, like when you have your thing with return 0, you can put that like in the middle of your script just to kill it.
Yeah, you can do that. Just put exit and then the number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
oh, not mine for that, sorry. Working on something else.
He's working on Windows superiority.
That's unfortunate.
PowerShell is just built different.
Yeah, it's built poorly.
No,
Wait, I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to happen. It's the future now. It recursively went through this entire directory using every method.
Any questions, concerns? Results?
What is that?
It's Hollywood. No, I mean it's hacking. What would we hack? We could never do this.
Oh, those are scripts.
That's kind of like strategy.
You just install something.
Shane, we should have done this like a month ago and then given people M&Ms for writing us scripts for CCDC.
And then like
So
breaks and
smart.
get them done.
One M&M per functional line of CCDC scripts.
Have to
Obfuscated.
have nuke.
Yeah.
Remove every other line in this week.
Did Wayne get mad if we obfuscated them?
Yes.
How obfuscated should they be?
0.
What? Too late.
10% off.
Are you actually obfuscating your PowerShell scripts?
Were you not supposed to?
Oh, wait.
I think we should.
That's
why
why it took you an hour to write a password change script.
we're running it in 3 different languages, and we're gonna combine them all together.
Yeah. You like write the
That
first
sounds dumb.
It's actually running compiled Python opcode
every other
in PowerShell.
That's a good idea.
it'll be like every third letter is written in one language. So the first letter is written in C, second is in PowerShell, and third is in just Windows command prompt.
You're fine.
And then it just alternates the entire way down. And we just blend it all together and it works.
You gotta use some of that like control character whatever crap so that when you read it in the text editor it looks like it's broken code but it actually compiles. Or no, even better, you read it in the text editor and it's the right code, but if you try to compile it, it doesn't work.
It's supposed to sort the process used by users.
Where's this all?
What? I'm reading Paulo script, Shane.
Paulo.
Wait, I thought I was a bitch.
It looks like 3 to 4 of you are attempting. So I don't want to cut you off, but any progress? Any close? Epic. Okay, well I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'm just gonna get a solution. Wait, do you have one? No? Okay. I'm just gonna eat these M&Ms myself, guys.
Since
required.
I did find it, you just don't have permission to open, copy, paste.
Oh, yeah.
Required
You
for all
found the
systems
challenge.
have web
Yeah,
outbound.
challenge the SH.
That's what it said in that.
Alright, does anyone not want me to, does anyone not want me to show the solution if they're still working on it? Alright, y'all quitters. Okay, so here's how I solved it.
Yo, oh, chill.
You didn't raise your hand. Too late. So, if the first variable is empty, then print usage, and this is just the program name. Otherwise, get all the PIDs with pgrep, print how many they were running with command substitution and word count, and then you can ignore the white space here, but this will just read the PID com, which is the command that ran it, and then find bash in the command, if so, print it. So this is what it'll look like. If I run with our user basher, it prints this. So 54 processes, there's all the things, and this many shells. Any concerns on that script? Alright, cool. Well, that's all I have. Oh yeah, no, yeah, this. So if this was interesting, write something in it. If you want me to like look at it, I'll do it. You can be annoying and put Discord webhooks like DL220. Any questions? What's up?
Can you make the challenge answer readable by the basher user?
Yeah, I can do that. There you go. Ooh, just wrote to my terminal. Alright, well, if you guys don't have any questions, then, or any other one, then, thanks for coming.
So we're about to have another meeting for Brightbucks here at 6:45. So you guys want to stick around for that? It's just kind of like an opportunity for the club to make money. They're offering, I think, so for if 50 students complete their task they want, the club gets $1,000, which means a lot of pizza we can buy for you guys. So
But we can buy pizza anyway, so only stay if you're interested. We probably aren't, so.
What's Brightbucks?
No,
It's an app.
it's an advertisement.
How can I earn $8?
You should probably.
Oh, yeah.
What can Brightbucks do for me?